Hello and good evening from Rwanda's capital here in Kigali, and many thanks for joining us on this Friday edition on RwandaTV. These are the top stories for our viewers in Rwanda and those watching us from across the world. Justice officials from Rwanda and Burundi have reiterated their commitment to work together in order to fight crimes. Also tonight, foreign investors in Rwanda appreciate the government for helping them to invest in country easily, which has contributed a lot in the growing of their businesses. Ukrainian cyclist Budiak Anatoly, who rides for Telangana cycling team, a Malaysian UCI Continental cycling team, won the 6th stage of Tour du Rwanda on Friday from Musanze to Kigali. And thanks indeed for joining us on this Friday edition. Me, Ethan Tashobia, and of course my guest anchor, Eden Shami Benimana, who will be joining me later on to talk about him and what he actually does in Rwanda's airline, but on a small scale, that is Zipline. Now, you're watching RwandaTV News live from Kigali. This Friday at Urugwiro Village, President Paul Kagame received Doreen Bolgan Martin, who is the Director of International Telecommunication Union and Development Bureau, for discussions on the upcoming World Telecommunication and Development Conference that will be hosted in Kigali in June this year. Also today, President Paul Kagame received Tijan Tiam, the board chairman of the Rwanda Finance Limited, alongside the CEO of the Kigali International Financial Center, and they discussed the progress made in establishing the Kigali International Financial Center. Also tonight, justice officials from Rwanda and Burundi have reiterated their commitment to work together in order to fight crime. Sejanori has more.
A delegation from Burundi's justice system led by the country's Minister of Justice was received by her Rwandan counterpart, who is also the country's Attorney General.
Both
sides also discuss cooperation when it comes to the extradition of criminals in both countries. On the problem of individuals being sought by Burundian authorities for attempting a coup d'état in the country back in 2015, it was noted that the matter has been discussed at different levels and there is the political will on both sides to resolve the issue and that discussions will continue. The participants in the meeting also agreed that such gatherings will continue in order to build up long-term cooperation between the two justice systems.
Officials from both sides acknowledged the progress that has been made when it comes to cooperation between Rwanda and Burundi, notably the extradition of 19 suspects back to Burundi and 11 having been sent to Rwanda from Burundi. In addition, up to 72,000 Burundian refugees that had been living in Rwanda have been able to go back home.
A lot has been achieved on security matters. Suspects are extradited, and as you just noted, we came here today in order to work closer together to fight crimes and especially punish wrongdoers. As you pointed out, the objective is to ensure that the justice sectors of Rwanda and Burundi cooperate better and have a better international standing.
A number of meetings have been taking place between both sides as the two countries continue to improve their bilateral relations.
Now, today, 25th February 2022, Rwanda Defense Force graduated basic military course at Basic Military Training Center in Nasho. The course covered a period of 11 months. The newly trained group demonstrated skills at arms and technical drills required to be integrated into the Rwanda Defense Force. The recruitment and training of the new soldiers is part of a recurring process that is in line with RDF's required operational readiness as provided by the strategic guidance of the Commander-in-Chief of the RDF, President Paul Kagame. Now, the ceremony was presided over by the RDF Chief of Defense Staff, CDS General Jean Bosco Kazura. The CDS welcomed the graduates and urged them to observe RDF values and code of conduct. The CDS also reminded the graduates to get ready to maintain peace even beyond the nation's borders on the African continent and beyond. Now, the overall best student among them was a female student, Private Umhoza Yvette, who said that her success was due to dedication of her instructors. The new soldiers are now enrolled into the force after close to 1 year period of basic military training. In other news, the joint meeting held on Friday by the Ministry of Infrastructure and various other agencies had a conclusion on the ongoing difficulties faced by motorists in Kigali City, to which the motorists were pleased with the decisions taken. The cooperatives of taxi motorcyclists in the Kigali City are to be reduced from 41 to 5, and the monthly contributions members were making are to be scrapped. Sidi Patel has more.
Some of the most common problems experienced by taxi motorcyclists were the contributions they made to 41 cooperatives in Kigali. The Yegomoto meter problems, which are often reported to result in losses incurred by the motorists and some of them who worked without the authorities knowing, because they did not have a driver's license. After all these issues were raised and discussed by various agencies, a meeting was held on Friday in Kigali that brought together motorists in Kigali City, the Ministry of Infrastructure, the Rwanda National Police, and other agencies. These motorcyclists have been introduced to various changes that have been made to help them to do their job better. This includes the fact that the cooperative numbered from the remaining 41 is 5, that the motorcyclists are going to be set up to monitor their problems, and so on. Some motorcyclists are happy with the change.
The message you brought us, we receive it with gratitude. My friends have sent me to tell you that you should thank our President of the Republic on our behalf. Everything is okay for me because what they discussed are the problems the motorists have been facing. The problem for us was the monthly contributions to the cooperatives, which were useless for us. We are happy that they have been removed. Cooperatives have been a challenge for us because we contributed and we don't know the outcome of our contribution. We have been contributing 60,000 Rwandan francs, which couldn't be retrieved.
Rwanda National Police spokesperson CP John Bosco Kabera says a thorough study will be conducted on how these motorcyclists will be helped to obtain driver's licenses.
The Minister for Infrastructure has addressed the motor transport issues that were raised by motorists about a month ago, and decisions that were taken have been communicated that will be implemented by different agencies, including Rwanda National Police, Rwanda Regulatory Agency, Rwanda Cooperative Association. So we think people have understood, the motorists have understood, and we are looking forward to implementation of these decisions or resolutions.
One of the main issues that motorists have been addressing for is to consider the cost of insurance. The Minister of Infrastructure, Dr. Ernest Sabimana, said that there would be talks with the insurance companies in order to discuss the high rates of insurance to be harmonized and regulated. Another common obstacle for motorists is the fines that have been levied for delaying the payment of Rwanda revenue taxes. This fine has been waived in order to help them pay their taxes properly.
Many problems about the cooperatives have been raised by the motorists, and they have been there for a long time. That is why different government agencies sat down and discussed about those problems and discussed to see the root causes and how they can be solved. It has been decided that the cooperatives be dissolved and new ones created. The insurance price problem is being discussed by different entities, including insurance companies, and will be solved soon. It will not take long for a decision to be reached and an announcement made.
The city of Kigali has 24,000 motorcyclists, and 7,000 of them have been operating illegally, without the proper authorization papers or even a driver's license. A special department is also to be set up at the Rwanda Utilities Regulatory Authority to deal with issues affecting the taxi motorcyclists. Siddhi Patel, RTV News.
Many thanks, Sidi, for that report. Now, $3.7 million has been sanctioned for 3B hotels by the International Finance Corporation for the refurbishment and upgrading the existing 3B hotels in Rwanda, and will create job opportunities in the tourism, trade and travel sector, which were lost by many as the COVID-19 pandemic hit the country. Sidi Patel still with more details.
investment would support 3B Group of Hotels, one of Rwanda's leading ecotourism groups, to expand its network of mid-tier lodging in Rwanda, with investment in the completion of Akagera Safari Camp in the Lakes District in the eastern province of Rwanda. Second, the acquisition, refurbishment, and putting into the corporation of Nobilis Hotel. Third, the introduction of a modern management information system. International Finance Corporation Regional Director for Eastern Africa, Ms. Fossat Olajumoke Jagun, highlights the key points of the agreement between the owners of 3B Hotels, Mr. Paul Muvunyi and Mrs. Vion Impundu.
$3.7 million loan to 3B Group of Hotels to support the construction of a mid-market safari camp in the Akagera National Park area in Rwanda's Great Lakes region, and the refurbishment and upgrading of its 3 existing hotel properties in Rwanda. As Olaf had mentioned earlier, you were involved 20 years ago in the development of the Rwanda tourism strategy. I applaud you for your efforts in continuing in that vein and for staying the course, especially during this hectic and challenging pandemic period. The financing is part of IFC's support to Rwanda's tourism sector and aligns with the World Bank Group strategy of helping Rwanda to accelerate economic growth and recovery in key sectors such as tourism. Tourism is an important driver of economy that the sector needs additional support to recover from the unfortunate effects of the pandemic on tourism, trade, and travel. Just to give a few numbers, in July 2020, the African Union estimated that Africa lost about 2 million jobs and nearly $55 billion with a B in travel and tourism revenues in just the first 3 months of the pandemic. Unfortunately, that cannot be fully recovered. The IMF has predicted that real GDP growth amongst African countries that were dependent on tourism shrunk by 12% in 2020. There is no doubt that the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic have been felt throughout the tourism value chain, from airlines, hotels, restaurants, tour operators, camp operators, food suppliers, farmers, retailers, the local community in places like Akagera and the like, and SMEs supporting the sector.
Mr. Paul Muvunyi, one of the owners of 3B Hotels, addresses the tourists about the future construction of the hotel lines and the increase of tourists in the month of June.
As we all know, the tourism sector faced harsh conditions during the pandemic, but we have been given the loan by the IFC, which will be used to complete the construction of Akagera Safari Camp, Kinigi Karongi, and the Kivu Lake hotels. This means we will be back to operations after the pandemic period, as the booking shows that there will be a lot of tourists in June.
The agreement shows that there will be boom period in the employment and other sectors. This will boost the economic growth of Rwanda, which is a win-win situation for all of them involved. Siddhi Patel, RTV News.
In other stories, foreign investors in Rwanda appreciate the government for helping them to invest in the country easily, which has contributed a lot in growing of their businesses, and therefore they are encouraging their colleagues to come and invest in the country because Rwanda is developing on high speed. Betty Mutoni reports.
The foreign investors in Rwanda say that they are happy to work in Rwanda due to good governance that support them in growing of their businesses, and they encourage their brothers and sisters to come and invest in Rwanda because there is security that help them to work in peace and harmony.
All these countries have been going through, particularly in Africa, but I've seen Rwanda, the best infrastructure, best security, and people are not aggressive, very polite. That's why I'm doing a business here. Rwanda is number one in Africa, and even compared to Europe, Rwanda is better.
So you can travel anytime, and then there is the security. For example, you can work at night. They will not rob you your cell phone.
These foreigners continue to say that they are enjoying working in Rwanda, and they're encouraging their counterparts to come and invest in Rwanda, and they stop worrying because Rwanda is a good place to work.
Rwanda is a good market for the business, so we started business here for the salt first, and we have a planning to put a factory here for the salt in future. Rwanda is a very beautiful place. It is safe to stay. It is very the weather is very awesome. So I recommend to stay here, and I always tell people to come here and invest here to make Rwanda big.
I'll say I'm apparently at home because I'm not even paying for visa. So I even recommend other Tanzanians. I have my brothers that they're already here, and I'm still trying to tell other people who are Tanzanians and even not Tanzanians that you're most welcome in Kigali, and business here it's very positive, and the government here is very welcoming us, and I'm feeling at home free, and I'm advising anyone who's thinking to open a branch or starting a business in Kigali, go ahead.
Some of people working with these foreign investors say that this helps them to improve their standards of living, and they advise their fellow youth to study and find what to do, which will help them improve their standards of living, as they explain.
Parent, I buy clothes. I even bought a plot of land and goats. This job supports me. They are Indians, Kenyans. Therefore, I advise my fellow youth to learn different international languages.
They vary workers. Since I started working with them, my life improved. This job supports me in paying school fees at university. I help my parents, and some of us wedded using the money from here.
There is a lot I have achieved while working with them. When you have a family and you are able to look after them, you pay insurance and other necessities. I rent, but my target is buying my own house.
Some of Rwanda's efforts include facilitating foreigners to invest in Rwanda, which help in a foreign exchange earning and national development. Betty Mutoni, RwandaTV News.
Many thanks, Betty, for that report. Now, the Kigali Genocide Memorial Authorities note that they appreciate the initiative of people who contribute to the program of renovation of the mass graves and the surrounding space, as it is a way to honor and preserve the memory of the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi. Olive Nete reports.
The Kigali Genocide Memorial, a final resting place for more than 250,000 victims of the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi, currently has 14 mass graves. The IHS Rwanda, a company of shared telecommunications infrastructure, supported in the renovation of 3 mass graves and the surrounding space. This Thursday, the IHS Rwanda and the Kigali Genocide Memorial Authorities visited the renovated place. Dieudonné Nagiriubuntu, the head of the Kigali Genocide Memorial, notes that renovating the memorial site is a daily activity that supports in the maintenance of the place.
The renovation and the maintenance of the memorial, I may say that is a daily, monthly activity, because we need to keep this memorial well maintained to the standard of this country. The cleanliness, very good infrastructure. It's a place for remembrance, but also a place for learning for the future. We need to educate the world. So once the mass graves are well maintained, the gardens also need to be maintained, exhibition updated and maintained as well. So it's a journey that I may say we welcome everyone to come and contribute to the work on this mission of keeping alive the memory of genocide.
Florid Tuisabe, in charge of the commemoration program at the Ministry of National Unity and Civic Engagement, notes that memorial sites helps in preserving the history. It helps people to learn about the history while looking at what happened with real facts, not just telling them. In some places, there is need to construct new graves, renovate and rebuild in a modern way. The ministry closely monitors those activities and also gives advices if necessary. About 100,000 people visit the Kigali Genocide Memorial every year. IHS Rwanda's funding was used to renovate 3 mass graves and the surrounding space, which is designed to provide a peaceful environment for visitors and survivors to commemorate the genocide. Olive Nete, RTV News.
Now, in the sports world, you know what is happening. It's Tour du Rwanda. Ukrainian cyclist Budiak Anatoly, who rides for Telangana cycling team, a Malaysian UCI Continental cycling team, won the 6th stage of Tour du Rwanda on Friday from Musanze to Kigali of about 152 kilometers. Budiak used 3 hours, 35 minutes and 21 seconds for that distance to beat Lithuanian Nathaniel Tesfazian, who came second. Rwandan cyclist Eric Manizabayo from Benediction Ignite finished third in this race. Budiak's victory, the first ever stage victory for any cyclist from Ukraine on this 2.1 category African tour, should give a slight reason for a smile for the Ukrainian, whose country is going through a security crisis, as said by Nicola Boremo, the EU ambassador to Rwanda.
Allow me also to highlight in such a very sad moment in our history. I think this, the fact that an Ukrainian cyclist won this stage, I think brings some hope. And this allows also me to highlight that the European Union, along with our partners, including European Union, is standing very strong by the people and the government of Ukraine in this very difficult time. And we really hope that peace will prevail. We can not accept a conflict and a war in 2022 in Europe. And so we sincerely hope that this event will also play a role. And we really congratulate this Ukrainian cyclist. And I hope that it will bring at least a moment of joy in a very difficult time.
Rwandan rider Jean Bosco Nsengimana did most of the work to sweep on the climber classification points of the day, including the 15 points at the summit of Tetero Hill, the all category. Nsengimana currently sits top of the mountain climbers classification GC category with 61 points. On Saturday, riders will take on the 7th stage of Tour du Rwanda from Nyamirambo to Gicumbi and back to Kigali. You're still watching RwandaTV News. Now, this is the part where we actually engage some of our guest anchors, and tonight we have Shami Eden Benimana, who is the general manager of Zipline Rwanda. Many thanks for finding time to join us on this edition.
Absolutely, thank you.
You're such a good anchor, news anchor. You did great.
Thank you.
Yes. So Shami, I'm glad you enjoyed it. Sorry, I'm quick to ask questions because that's what I do most of the time. So you're the new general manager of Zipline. I think that's probably, of all the posts I've had about Zipline, that's also sounds new to what I've heard about Zipline. Yeah. If you could tell us about yourself and what you actually do at Zipline.
Absolutely. My name is Shami Eden Benimana. I'm Rwandan, obviously. Born here, raised here, did a bit of traveling, studying in the US, but came back to do my work here.
What did you study?
What did I study or where did I study?
Both.
So I studied at Hendrix College in a small town called Conway, Arkansas. And what I studied chemical physics. And yes.
It actually relates to what you're doing, right?
Yes and no. So what I'm doing, I'm the general manager, and what that entails is really I oversee operations of Zipline in Rwanda. That's a bit broad, but basically Zipline is a logistics company. We have been operating in Rwanda since 2015, 2016.
Yeah.
But the point is, over the last 5 years, we've been working with different stakeholders, including government of Rwanda, specifically the Center for Blood Transfusion and the Rwanda Medical Supply, to revolutionize those two companies' supply chains.
So if I could actually ask, since 2015, around 2016-ish, when you launched, I know you cannot entail the impact, but at least you can pinpoint to some of the key impacts that you've had at Zipline.
Absolutely, absolutely. Since the very beginning, what we truly believe in at Zipline is that logistics, the supply chain in the world, can really be transformed with existing technologies. We believe that access to medical supplies is a right for everyone, everywhere. And when the founders came to Rwanda, when they discussed with Rwanda, they found that the government was ready to try new ideas, to innovate, to try things
how's
that...
been the try?
to try things that even countries like the US were not ready to try. So the trial has been fantastic. It's not a trial anymore. The trial was just at the very beginning. Since basically the end of 2018, 2019, we have been operating on a countrywide scale. We have 2 distribution centers in Muhanga and Kayonza, and what we do is that we centralize our storage for blood and medical supplies. And on demand, any health facility among over 400 that we serve can, at the push of a button, request. Let's say a person has an accident on the road and they require blood transfusion. They just request. 20 minutes away, we just pack the blood, we deliver to them.
That has been actually impactful. We've seen a lot of that. Are you, briefly, I understand we don't have much time, and I apologize for that, but are you intending to expand into other sectors apart from blood transportation?
Absolutely. As I said, we are a logistics company. So now we are looking at ways to deliver anything, anywhere, instantly. So we have started in the health sector. We have had good collaborations with stakeholders in Rwanda, and we are exploring more and more. We want to make sure that wherever you are, whatever goods you need, we can get them to you as quickly as possible. The drone is a platform to get it to you.
Using
but our
drones?
goal is to get to you. Yes.
Oh, you're also venturing into cars? Because I mean, if I want a seat or anything, surely you're not going to.
No, what we do is electric, autonomous, instant logistics on demand.
I think we'll have to come and cover that story. Quite a lot of things happening. And so I know you guys, as we conclude, you've helped, inspired a lot of top startups to open up in Rwanda. Aren't you inspired about that story, what you've achieved as well?
Yeah, absolutely. When I was very young, back in high school, I could not believe that autonomous drones could fly in Rwanda and that I would be involved in them. But now I am. So now what we are trying to do is to bring more inspiration to our youth. What happens 20 years from now? How will the skies look?
We cannot wait for your expansion story, and I think your expansion story cannot be exhausted tonight, Shemi.
We look forward to hosting you and showing you what we do and what we're planning to do.
You want to outline? You will be delivering blood plus?
Blood, medical products, and anything, anywhere, on demand.
Eden Shami Benimana, the General Manager of Zipline Rwanda. We want to appreciate your time in it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. And you heard, Zipline is expanding beyond blood transportation and delivering that we've known them for. So probably that's a story that we should be looking forward to, covering and telling. And this is the guy who will be telling us more about that. And from me and my guest anchor, Eden, right here, we want to thank you for your time. Until next time, I'm Ethan Teshabia. Bye for now.